relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah.
On Pulse 95.
It's finally good to be back on the afternoon Karak shift. I will miss the night vibes and the
Do you really?
I kind of do.
Just
I don't
a
know.
bit.
I just like just getting in my car around 7 o'clock and just blasting some music, getting myself ready for the show. And just listening to, I think one of the things you're going to miss are the long songs.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of long songs and we cannot play them anymore because, well, we've been, what is that word? We shrunk back to the afternoon cut-up timings, which is 1 hour. But that's okay because even though it's only 1 hour, we've got a lot to talk about, a lot of entertainment things, starting with a review. Yes, our reviews are back and they're strong. This one is Demon Slayer, also known as Kimetsu no Yaiba. We watched it and we're going to be talking about it. It is considered one of the few, if not only, anime where they basically, instead of having a whole season, they basically compress it into one movie.
Yeah, so it's a sequel to the first season if you've ever gotten the chance to watch it. What makes it also very interesting is that it's not the kind of like OVA film that acts as a spin-off. It's one that actually contributes to the canonical story. And there's a lot of hype behind it. We've been waiting a long time. It's been sitting in Japan, it's been sitting in the US, and we finally got it premiered here in the UAE. So we can't wait to review it ourselves on the show. Also, we have tons of movie updates, everything from the Friends reunion, iCarly reboot, and even Marvel's What If. It seems that we're going to be getting that sooner than we expected.
Yes, we are. Basically, what Marvel is planning on doing is basically having one Marvel sort of show or movie per month until the end of the year. So it kind of fills in a gap between that. We also have another update about the Knives Out cast that apparently you and I are the only ones who are not cast in that movie at this point. And it's hilarious, but I'm loving it. It's a whole, a star-studded list. We're also going to be talking about, again, Dave Bautista. He's just going on and giving some big reveals, and especially in this one, where he says he turned down a Fast and Furious role for another movie, which is very interesting. It's not a movie I expected him to basically pitch. And of course, we're going to be talking about E3 and an interesting Nintendo style, not by Nintendo, but a Nintendo style sort of showcase called the Wholesome Direct. And so much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Also, guys, don't forget to join in the conversation. Text us 4215. It's Slot or Do. Also, we're streaming live on our YouTube channel, Pulse 95 Radio, or on 95 FM. All that right here on Pulse 95.
Is it an epic or epic failure? The Big Review. Movies, games, and TV in focus.
Pulse 95.
All right, it's about time we review the long-awaited, highly anticipated animated film straight from Japan. This is for the weebs, the anime fans out there, Demon Slayer fans. Kimetsu no Yaiba, Mugen.
Yaiba.
Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Kimetsu no Yaiba. It's okay. We're not Japanese, so the guys can pretend that we've been pronouncing it properly.
So this movie has been highly talked about. It became the highest grossing film in Japan, beating Spirited Away.
Even in the United States, apparently.
Oh, okay, wow.
It was doing great in the box office, even in the UAE when we were trying to book for tickets. It was basically sold out since the 7th of May, which was when the fan screening was. And everybody's going crazy, especially since it came out around the Eid holiday. So it was the perfect time. Now, in case you guys haven't heard of Demon Slayer or Kimetsu no Yaiba, it basically follows the story of Tanjiro, who unfortunately finds out that his entire family has been massacred by a demon, except for one of his sisters, who turns into a demon herself. So he's basically set out his life that he's going to turn into a demon slayer and also protect his sister, because obviously demons are persecuted, even though she herself is quite special and quite different. And along the way, of course, there are a lot of life lessons and friendships that are made, including ones about empathy and understanding people who are not the same as you and whatnot. And this story, just like we said earlier, is about, kind of serves as a second season where instead of, just like Mikhail said, instead of something that is a spin-off story that turns into a movie, this actually serves as an actual continuation to the first season.
Yes.
And we're also going to have a second season to pick off right after the movie later on this year.
This is a big deal because usually when you watch one of those anime movies from like Bleach, Naruto,
All
the big
anime,
ones,
basically.
and you love it, you love everything about that film, but you will have to remind yourself it has no impact to the story.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just a standoff. But no, this one does have a lot of impact. There's a lot of character development to our main guys, like Tanjiro, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the whole story in this movie revolves around a demon who basically infuses himself.
That's a spoiler.
No, okay,
That's a spoiler.
not a spoiler. Let's say, okay, there is an antagonist that basically makes our protagonist characters fall asleep into a sort of like a endless dream state.
That's a spoiler, Mikhail.
But that's it. I don't have to say anything more
There's
than
no spoiler. Basically, okay. Let's go backwards. Back when in season 1, at the very end of it, as usual, they get a crow that kind of gives off the next mission, and they basically tell the gang, the Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu, and of course his sister, that they should go to the Mugen Train, where they should follow up with a Hashira. A Hashira is basically a sort of like a captain.
Sort of like a top demon slayer.
Exactly, somebody top-notch, to assist him, because there's been a demon that's been notorious on this train and causing trouble every single time. And every time normal demon slayers are sent there, they just, go silent. They never come back again. So they go and assist him. So we already knew there's going to be an action-filled movie. And it serves the part. And what is interesting about this movie is that it actually felt like a couple of episodes. It did not feel like a movie at all. And I'm not angry about it in any way, because if you remember, and if we keep on saying, this is one season condensed into one. So if it doesn't feel like a movie, I'm not upset about it. I'm okay with that.
It's 2 hours long. It's pretty beefy. We get a lot of screen time with with most of the characters. Even we get a little bit of an insight into the top demon slayer, who always came off in the first season as a little bit cocky and a little pretentious.
He was weird. I wouldn't say cocky or pretentious. I would call him
overly optimistic. I never understood why he has such a positive attitude, especially when dealing with something so horrendous as demon slaying.
He's just very excitable, and we see that literally from the moment we get introduced to him again in this movie. He is exactly the same thing, and eventually they explain to you about just a little small glimpse into why he is the way he is. But at the same time, I feel like I don't hate the fact that he's that type of person, because if you think about a lot of characters and a lot of archetypes in a lot of anime, a lot of them are very repetitive. And that is the reason, for example, Zenitsu is my favorite character in Kimetsu no Yaiba, even though in other shows and other movies, I would have hated his guts. But there's something about the characters over here that, despite they follow parts of the typical shonen archetypes, at some point, at the very end of it, there's something so different and unique about them. Which is why I did not get annoyed that Rengoku was just an, over-the-top, crazy, annoying person and just super optimistic, but at the same time kind of tone-deaf. But he is not tone-deaf. He's just a very exciting person. Same thing with Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tanjiro. Even though, I'm going to say this, I felt that Zenitsu once again was kind of reduced into a talk and laughing character, and that is it.
I would say that's the comedic part of this film.
But that is it. Like, for example, Inosuke got a chance previously in the previous season to show himself. Zenitsu kind of got that in the Spider arc. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We kind of got a glimpse into how he is actually, why he is the way he is. I mean, if you guys don't know much about him, he is, his powers come out only when he's sleeping, when he believes in himself when he's sleeping.
Something like that.
And it's interesting then, but now over here I'm like, okay, I want to see more of that seriousness. But it was just like, that's it. Just a small glimpse of it. Meanwhile, even Inosuke got a chance to be, just show us another side of him, just like we did when, instead of just an angry, crazy person from the jungles, he's actually much deeper and he's much smarter than he looks.
Now, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a lot more to talk about the film. If you've gotten the chance to watch Demon Slayer, Mugen Train, do text in 4215 into Salat Urdu. We'd love to hear your personal critiques of the movie. We're going to continue our review for this film right after this short break, so stay locked and stay tuned right here to the Afternoon Cut-Up.
Pulse 95.
We are talking about Demon Slayer Mugen Train, or Kimetsu no Yaiba Mugen Train, that came out recently in the UAE and across some parts in the Middle East, starting with May 7th with a fan screening and an official release over the last Eid weekend. We were basically going over the characters and what we saw of them, and I was saying that I felt that Zenitsu was kind of not given enough of a serious moment. I'd say I know that he is part of the joke or the laughing stock, but let's be honest, all three of them are comedic. They're all children, which I love that they keep on highlighting that those are children. And it shows at the very last scene, we're not going to ruin it for you, no spoilers here, that at the very last scene where they're all crying, it just shows that they're all children, they're all being thrown into this very serious and very terrifying ordeal.
Exactly. But besides, some of the comedic parts, it's a film that mixes a lot of action and a lot of emotion and different paces, you could say. And I think that's what people love about the first season, is that it's not just Demon Slayer with a katana slicing up demons. There's a lot more to it. It's a personal battle and struggle for each of these characters. They tell you the journey of where they come from and what they're doing, and this movie almost takes that and elevates it even more. We get to explore Tenjiro's past, and in a way how his past is the reason why he's down this path, but also why it's probably holding him back. And I think that's one of the really great character developments that come out of that. I also grew to respect, Jin Goku, who honestly from the first season I didn't like him, but I grew to like him in this one.
Rengoku.
Sorry, Rengoku. Yeah, it's so hard to remember all those
There are
names.
so many new characters that you need to learn about, especially with Demon Slayer. There's also the techniques that you need to memorize and the types, and so I don't blame you for getting them wrong.
Now, because this is an animated film, we can't stress how beautifully animated this movie is.
Oh my god. I needed to take a moment.
Gorgeous.
Ufotable did amazing. Just like what they did with the actual anime, and now in the movie, they just beautiful work when it comes to the action. I mean, they're the ones who animated the Fate series, so it only makes sense that they're really good at what they do. I do not want to point fingers, Mappa. They could have done, they could have learned a little bit from them, because that was just beautiful. Even the parts where they had the 3D animation, it wasn't that jarring, like it usually is in other animated sequences in anime, but it was actually beautiful. The colors, the excitement, the movement, the action was just perfect.
Yeah, especially those fights. They're more than just two swords and two enemies clashing at one another. There's also the expressive sort of like I would say like monstrosity that comes, the power that comes with the katana techniques, and I love whenever a sword really hits home and you get to see like just the technique sort of flourish out. It's almost like gushing with power, Tenjiro is my personal favorite, but also Rengoku has a few really cool moments as well. And it's a really pleasing movie to watch from start to finish, and it's got a lot that I think even fans who have watched the first season are going to love it even more here, which is why I urge you guys, before you watch this film, I think if you've not watched this first season, I urge you to watch the first season, because you'd appreciate this film even more.
It will not make sense, actually, if you do not watch the first season. So it's just a quick couple of episodes. They're not... Okay, some of the content is heavy, and I was a little bit worried that they might do a repetition of what they would do in the first season. Now, I know, obviously, this is following the manga, so it's not like the mangaka just decided to create a whole new story. But I was a little bit worried. How usually in the first season, every once in a while, we'd end up empathizing along with Tanjiro towards the demons.
Yes.
I was like, I don't want that anymore because that will become repetitive. And sometimes you want just a bad person who is bad just because they feel like being bad for whatever other reason, beyond them being treated unfairly, because a good chunk of those demons that we were introduced to in the first season, maybe 3/4 of them were forced to become demons, and they were like, this is our tragic life. We were forced into becoming this. But here, this is just a person or a creature that just wants to be on the top and is aiming to be the best of the best. So they're just wreaking havoc in the meantime.
Yeah,
which I love about
it's
that.
nice. There's a few changes here and there. They do tone down a few things such as that, which could usually be the running joke of the series, but one that I think even fans can't deny they really, really love. And I think you're going to really love this movie if you've watched the first season, and if you haven't, maybe watch a recap. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But whichever way, I still recommend this film. I can see why there's so much hype behind it. I can see why it's doing so successful across the globe, especially in the center of Japan. Demon Slayer Mugen Train is no joke, and we also consider it one of our personal favorites, which is why I'm personally going to give it a solid verdict of 8 out of 10.
Similar here. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It's doing really great, and it also sets up, of course, the next season that is going to be coming out very soon. It makes you excited for the entirety of the season and the entirety of the series that was kind of on hiatus since 2019. The manga is finished, so if you guys want to go ahead and read it, go ahead. But I have a thing. When it's an action manga, I would wait for it to be animated, especially when it comes to Kimetsu no Yaiba. It is just beautiful. Just like we said, Ufotable did amazing with that. So if this does not hype you up, I don't know what would. If you can, go ahead and watch it in the cinema. It's still ongoing. Otherwise, alternative links already exist because it accidentally leaked on the PS4 store. So it's 180p. I'm just saying, if you can't, we do not condone piracy, but we're just saying, putting it out there. But again, we do not condone piracy. Make sure everything you watch is legal.
Got to put that disclaimer. But guys, we got to take a bit of a break. And coming up next, we have tons of movie updates. Everything from Knives Out, iCarly, and Marvel's What If series, and so much more right here on the afternoon Karak.
I knew it was going to happen.
Whoopsie. All right, guys, stay tuned.
This is Pulse 95.
Oh boy, this is gonna be a long segment. Hope you guys are ready. After our review of Kimetsu no Yaiba, now we move on to more movie and TV show updates, kicking off with Knives Out 2. Only last week we were talking about how Edward Norton and Dave Bautista actually have been cast in the upcoming Netflix movies. But now we also found out that Catherine Hahn have also been cast. If you guys don't know who Catherine is, you probably know her as Agatha from the latest WandaVision TV show, and I'm excited about this.
So happy. I think what happened here is that whoever was the casting team for Knives Out 2, they watched WandaVision, they saw her play as Agatha, and you know what? That's, I think, was like the auditional show reel. They're like, she can do that.
Oh, definitely.
Let's bring her into Knives Out. She has this conniving nature to her that could fit so well in a murder mystery, whodunit kind of film. So I'm so happy she's in this movie.
Oh yeah, especially since Catherine Hahn has been like a staple in Hollywood for the longest time ever. But I'm so sad that it only took WandaVision for people to notice her and remember her, or just to give her what she deserves. So people just going ahead and loving her as much as she deserves, and also casting her everywhere, is exactly what she deserves. Moving on to another Japanese superhero, not an American or Marvel or DC superhero, but a Japanese staple one. His name is Ultraman, and apparently the feature film is in development at Netflix.
Now, what's interesting about Ultraman, it's like an iconic mecha franchise in Japan, and it's as big as Godzilla, but it seems like it never has that worldwide appeal, and Netflix is so adamant to make that otherwise. So I'm definitely excited for this film when it comes out. It seems like it could go for something a little bit more serious, because Ultraman is a little silly. We're talking like Power Rangers silly.
Come on. Power Rangers are the best.
Which is still good,
Power Rangers are the best. No Power Ranger, what's it called? Slander. It's loud here on the afternoon Karak. No.
Just telling, in my personal observation, I think when this comes out, it's going to definitely be pretty epic. But also, people have been waiting for this. I think Sema here as well, from our show. Shout out to her. That Friends is finally getting that reunion episode special. It's been talked about since last May. I remember we were talking about it, and it got delayed for a whole year.
Several times.
But this time, they are adamant. HBO Max is going to premiere this on May 27th. If you guys don't know, Aisha and I are a bit of a Friends haters here, and we're gonna watch this episode, but in spite. So just be prepared for that.
We're going to try to be as objective as possible. We're not going to let our own views come in the way of reviewing this episode. We're going to try our bestest, especially since we personally believe, this is a personal opinion. You guys are allowed to have your own opinions. But we personally feel that Friends is kind of outdated in its jokes. It might have some sort of, I'd say, nostalgic appeal to some people, but beyond that, does it work now in 2021? We'll need to find out when it comes out finally on the 27th of May, and then 10 to 20 days later, we're getting iCarly, the revival with Miranda Cosgrove and other original stars, coming out in June.
This is, wow, okay. iCarly, I remember watching a few episodes, but I think why this show could work today is because it's a show that always explored like internet culture, and now how different internet culture is nowadays with TikTok, Twitch, YouTube. That's something that I think this show could really explore with the original cast. That's really cool. I think people are gonna...
I think one cast member is missing. I'm not sure about that.
I'll have to check that.
But my issue is that because they're talking about the entire show is all about internet culture, and also goes back to the comedy that was in that show. Is it still relevant? And will they be tackling things that are a bit more serious that have been happening on the internet? Because we usually know that iCarly, same as Raven's revival, they was kind of still directed towards children. Is this directed towards the bigger audience, the audience that used to watch it while they're growing up, or are they going to still cater to a younger audience? Because that is what needs to be answered, because that is the reason why Hilary Duff ended up leaving Lizzie McGuire, because they wouldn't raise the age group towards the people who used to watch it when they grew up, and now they're adults now, so they would want something that would match their intellect. As for what's happening in August, as we mentioned, we've got Marvel's What If series that's also going to be filling in the gap after Loki and filling in the gap between the Eternals.
Honestly, I thought this was going to come much later, but I'm dying to watch this one. This is a very unique series that explores the what if scenarios of, like, for example, what if what's one? Okay, what if what's his name? There's a couple of these.
Yeah, hold on. Steven was Iron Man. Steven Strain was Iron Man.
There's also T'Challa.
T'Challa is Star-Lord.
Star-Lord.
And what if Peggy Carter was Captain Britain?
Yes. Yeah. So, and I think there's a lot more to these. And also, we're going to finally get the introduction of the Overseer. So that, I think Hind is going to definitely love this, because Hind the Overseer, she's going to see a lot of herself in that character. But definitely excited for this coming out this August. As we all know, Marvel is really kicking it just to full gear this year. And that is it, guys, for the movie update. That was pretty beefy, but we're going to take a bit of a break, and coming up next, we got that E3 2021. We know it's going online, but this time around, it seems like they're doing a little bit of a different little strategy. They're rolling out apps for people to personally join in for the show coming out like later next month. All this and so much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
This is Pulse 95.
As we all know by now, E3 2021 Showcase is going to be completely online and virtual. But it seems that we may have underestimated the term virtual, because ESA, the people organizing this event, have also just provided the first details about how people can access this all-digital E3 event. And they can do it through an online portal and a mobile app that's going to be ready right before right before the showcase. And one thing to note about the app itself and the online portal, it's going to not only broadcast the big premieres of the companies such as Microsoft and so on and so forth, but it's going to allow users to visit virtual booths for each exhibitor, which are going to feature tons of videos, written articles, and special events. And one thing that makes this even more interesting is that there's going to be an interactive overlay that users can use for things like viewer polls, featured tweets, and all sorts of elements. And there's even a leaderboard for how well do you interact with the online portal and the app. This is I would say a really, really cool feature to have. One that I think is much needed, because our biggest concern with the showcase was because it's not physical. The reason why E3 is special is because people love to go to those outlets, those booths, get to personally meet the developers. And it seems like ESA has found the exact alternative with the online portal as well as the app.
Not to be pessimistic, but it will crash.
That I think will happen. I really hope they're beta testing this thing from now, because millions of people worldwide tune into the broadcast, and they just have to be ready. They got to get some extra supercomputer servers to run this stuff. Oh yeah, definitely. They need a lot of servers, and they should be prepared for all this traffic that's going to be coming on this app and the online portal, especially since they're probably going to be streaming live through both of them. And since they're pretending that there's something similar to an actual convention, so there's going to be different rooms and whatnot, it's very specialized. They need to be prepared for all kinds of things happening here and there, and especially to those convention halls that are going to be super popular. For example, if there is going to be Nintendo and a lot of people are going to go head towards there, I know that usually what happens is that it's not a simultaneous showcase for all of them, but rather each and every day, perhaps like the previous one, I remember every day had a certain big developer or two that would have a showcase. So it depends on that. Are they going to do the same thing, or are they going to have them simultaneously airing? What is going to happen with that? It just ends up, it all boils down to being very, 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 very prepared, because the moment, the thing is about an E3 convention, for example, they can limit the amount of people who are physically there. But now, if you got thousands and hundreds and thousands and perhaps millions of people tuning in on the internet, they cannot really adjust traffic. Yeah. Which they should be prepared to be one of the, if not so far, the only largest online convention. And are they prepared to do that? To wait and see. You're right. It could be a train wreck, in the making. But if there is some, it's very ambitious. It is ambitious. Application and streaming online and through a portal. Maybe having an application kind of diverts the traffic, makes it more controllable, but also that means that you need to work out the online portal, which can crash, and also the application that also can crash. E3 is known for its great moments, but there are some flops, and people know that, there's a whole compilation you can find on YouTube. So I think either way, if it goes bad, if it goes good, people are going to enjoy it nevertheless. This is E3 Showcase. I'm definitely going to download this app, because unfortunately I can't make my way down to Los Angeles during that time. But I don't think you're allowed to go in. Yeah, you're right. I thought, because I have media access, but no. Oh, so you're not even IGN or Polygon. Just Pulse 95. Just Pulse 95. They're like, oh, come right in. Come right in. We know you guys. We listen to your show. And if you guys missed out on our show and you haven't listened to the first half of it, that's okay, because we do have a podcast that goes up after the show. Check out the Afternoon Karak wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's Spotify and Rami, Apple Podcasts, or SoundCloud. Again, wherever you listen to podcasts, just search up Afternoon Karak. We did review Mugen Train, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. So again, you missed out. Check that out. And as for the next story, Dave Bautista, which we've been arguing about how to pronounce his name, he says he turned down a Fast and Furious role for another movie pitch. Very interesting movie choice. Let's talk about that coming right up next right here on the Afternoon Karak. Pulse 95. Dave Bautista, he is a ongoing the discussion here on the afternoon Karak, evening Karak thing.
Evening Karak thing. It's not our show. It's just a thing.
It's just a thing.
Just a thing. Just a phase that we went through for 30 days, and now we're back to normal.
So that's one way of downplaying it. But yeah, Dave Bautista, he is a very interesting person in his roles and in real life. And again, one thing we really love about him is how opinionated he is. He does not shy away from being as blunt as possible. He's talked about his interest in playing the Bane when he stormed into Warner Bros. Executives saying, I want to play this character. And it seems like this time around, also in a recent interview with Collider, he expressed his interest for a particular film so bad that he was willing to turn down a role for the Fast and Furious franchise.
According to him, he says they wanted to talk to him about Fast and Furious, and he said, I'm not interested. Straight up, I'm not interested. However, let's talk about Gears of War and a character called Marcus Phoenix, because he really wants to play that character, apparently.
That's amazing. Huge respect for Dave for being the kind of actor that wants to select his... He knows he can just go to Fast and Furious. It's like, if you ask me, would I like to go to Marvel? Of course, on a heartbeat. It doesn't matter if I play as an extra or as a background character. But he has that stardom status where he can pick what he likes to play as.
However, I don't think he does, because he said multiple times, for example, when it came to Bane, everybody was like, we're actually not casting for that, so we're good for now. And they never gave him a call back and went like, hey, actually, we're going to have Bane as a character later on. And they never called him back. Same thing with this movie. He says that he thinks Universal was a little put off, but at the same time, he doesn't regret taking his shot. And I love the fact that he was pitching the movie. Not that he was going up and going like, hey, I heard you're going to make this movie. I want to know if this person has been cast yet. No, he straight up was pitching the movie and the character and saying, check out this movie, check out this game that can be turned into a movie, and also check me out. I would love to be part of it. I would be the perfect role. So he's very outspoken, and we love him for that. He's just out there and just going crazy, to be honest.
I agree. I can imagine he probably is a huge fan of Gears of War, Xbox's exclusive franchise, and he's been playing it for years. That he always felt like there should be a movie for it. And now that we are in this, we're sort of in this period where there are companies, big game companies, that are actually making their own standalone video game adaptations. And maybe Microsoft might tap into Gears of War, and if that becomes the case, Microsoft, you better have Dave Bautista up on your list.
Yeah. He probably will find out before everybody else.
He would fit the Gears of War, because the characters are big. They're these macho, heavy armored men.
Yeah,
he fit the role perfectly.
Well, if they're gonna follow the footsteps of Naughty Dog and Sony, maybe they should go ahead and cast him. As for our next story, it's very wholesome, very cute. It's about a wholesome direct, something reminiscent of a Nintendo Direct, but not by Nintendo. Let's talk about that coming right up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
You're listening to Pulse 95.
Around maybe a year or two ago, I came across a Twitter account called Wholesome Games, which is honestly the perfect thing ever. That is exactly what I'm almost always looking for. If you guys have been listening to the Afternoon Karak for quite a while, I'm always talking about those games that are just chill. They might have objectives, they might have some goals that you might need to reach, but it's all about chilling and having fun throughout all of them, and some of them might actually be quite emotional. And apparently, Wholesome Games is also going to be doing some sort of show called the Wholesome Direct, again, reminiscent of a Nintendo Direct, where they showcase a whole bunch of games. And what's interesting here is that they're going to showcase not maybe 10 or 3 or 5 of them, but rather 75 indie games, actually more than 75 indie games that would be considered as wholesome.
That is really amazing, and I say this all the time. It's great when the big companies out there give a shout out to the small ones, the indies. Because sometimes it's always the indies that do kind of better than like some of the ideas they come up with sometimes are better than what you find in the big budget games. And I feel like they always need the promotion. These small little developers out there who have these little dreams that want to make it a true reality. And with the big events like this, a showcase of 75 indie games.
More than 75 indie games.
I think at this point, if you watch this showcase and it's coming out in June 12th, there might be a few games you might want to pick up.
Yes, some of them are actually some of the most anticipated indie games out there. So they're going to be talking about them and showcasing them, as well as all kinds of games. And just like Mikhail said, sometimes with those big AAA games or those big action games, they're quite repetitive. They might be somewhat similar to each other. Sometimes, especially when it comes to certain genres, they're always
following trends, but indie is always doing its own thing,
Crazy things, and that is how they actually come to the forefront and how they actually gain all kinds of new loyal fans. So you guys can bet that I will definitely be watching it when it comes out, because some of the games that they're talking about are amazing. And actually, through Wholesome Games, I've been introduced to several games as well that I will be talking about whenever we get Thursday recommendations back. So excited for this one. Wholesome Games Direct. Just like what everybody needs. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. Lots of changes are happening in our lives. Lots of things happening that might be upsetting and sometimes might be tiring, exhausting to you as a person. So why not check out some wholesome games to play throughout those hard times. Coming up next is our Aisha and Mikhail Suggest. We are back at it again right here on the Afternoon Karak.
It's almost 5 p.m.
That was Afternoon Karak.
For dessert?
Aisha and Mikhail suggest.
Now that we're not fasting anymore, we can have our suggestions back, because technically they are our desserts of our show of the Afternoon Karak. You get a sip of karak, and at the end you get a small suggestion or a recommendation from Mikhail and I. And today is a super important one, a super important one from Mikhail.
Okay, so I know that majority of us who own cars are not mechanics ourselves.
Oh, no.
Which is why whenever we go out to an auto maintenance shop to get the cars inspected, of course that quotation is always gonna bring shivers down your spine, because usually you didn't expect you're gonna be paying this much for the little problems in your car. So whenever you go do get your car inspected and you get that quotation, my suggestion, please do this. And I think it almost 90% of the time, it actually makes a big difference. Whenever you get that quotation, go get a second opinion. Go to another auto maintenance shop. Go to different places, not only in Sharjah, go to neighboring Emirates, and show the same quotation to other shops and see if they charge just as much or even much lower.
And also make sure that nobody's tricking you, because some of the mechanics might be like, since you don't understand things, they'll be like, yeah, you need to do this and that and this and that. And you're like, okay, go ahead, because you don't understand. You expect them to know better than you. But sometimes they might be tricking you. We're not saying everybody's out to get you, but it's always good to get a second, third, or fourth opinion. Make sure everything is solid, then go ahead with your quotation. And this is the end of the Afternoon Karak, not the Evening Karak, because we're only an hour long, but the fun continues tomorrow, same time, same vibes, only here on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.